Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hi, this is Stacy. We are Loving My Veteran, and this is Walking in My Shoes this morning. Happy Monday after the holiday weekend. I hope everybody had a blessed holiday and survived. Um, Lots going on. Going to kind of give everybody a quick little rundown as to what we have going on this week and coming into January. I sent out a blog post by way of email from the website subscribers yesterday. It's called Flashbacks. The newsletter, I promise, will be coming out this week, so stay tuned for it. If you're in our group, you can print out the journal for what we're going to do for the entire month of January. Don't forget our book club. Get Lisa Harper's book, A Perfect Mess. In the group, there is a poll as to what day of the week works best for everybody to kind of get together and talk about what we've read and where we're going with that. So I want to put that out there as well. We're going to start a new feature in January. It's going to be called Vet Perspect, and we'll announce that date. But once a week, we're going to interview a veteran and get their perspective on living with PTSD and how they've challenged it and overcome that as well. We also have on Tuesday, starting next week, Elisa has so graciously decided and volunteered to host midweek break. So we'll do on Tuesdays at 3 Eastern time. You can pop on Zoom with her and talk about things that are going on in your life. It doesn't have to be veteran related, just a kind of a place to break and get away. All right, so and tomorrow and Wednesday on Walking in My Shoes, we're going to be discussing the difference and how to step from the caregiver role to the partner role and vice versa. So that will be a 2-day event talking about how we navigate that as the caregiver and as the partner, and where we draw those lines and how all that kind of works together. Today's topic is called Flashes in My Mind. And you know how I feel about the whole situation, that I am a firm believer that if we don't understand PTSD, good morning everybody, if we don't understand PTSD from the veteran's perspective, we're at a huge disadvantage. I don't want to use it as an excuse. I don't want to use it as a crutch. But if you've never walked in their shoes, you don't get it. And those are just some things we don't get. It is no secret. I make no secrets about it that I have PTSD from all my years in EMS. And I kind of thought that's always where it started. You know, there are certain events or smells, whatever, that kind of put me in a depressed kind of state, a little different. It's not the PTSD with the explosiveness that a lot of our veterans feel, and I think there's a huge difference between, by having PTSD and living with somebody with combat PTSD, I think there's a huge difference in the two. But I want to talk about what happened to me the other night. It was eye-opening, and it was very painful, and I'm just going to tell you, if that's a taste of what they go through, I can't even begin to explain. So anyway, I thought my PTSD came from my years in EMS. And the other night, we went to bed like any other night. Actually, it was better than most nights. There was no stress, no triggers, no arguing, no anything. We had watched a really good movie, and we just went to bed like any other night. Well, Carl always has a fan on in our room. Noise works for him. It kind of helps drown out whatever. So we always have a fan on in our room, and usually within a few minutes I'm sound asleep, because I'm like, hit the bed, let's go, to sleep, done. The other night I went to sleep, or I thought I did, not quite sure where I was in my sleep episode, but all of a sudden this super, super, super bright light just came flashing in my mind. And in it was a very vivid picture. It was the outside of an apartment door opening and the gold chain being behind it, and the door was locked from the inside. And I opened it and I opened it and I opened it, and you could just keep hearing this slamming of this chain and the slamming of the door, and the light from the top of the stairwell. It just shined on that gold chain, and that was all I could think about. And it just kept coming back as flashes. And I was nothing I could do. I couldn't wake up. I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't do anything. This flash just kept going. Well, the flash went away. And I was kind of going back to sleep. And it got eerily quiet, by the way. I didn't even hear the fan. And then I went into, the next scene was another flash, just not as bright because it was a more dim lit room. And there lay my mama, my grandmother, was kind of half in and half out of her bed. And she was laying there. And while I knew she was breathing, I knew something was wrong. And I remember her dentures laying next to her. And I focused on the dentures. Probably because my grandmother had never been without her teeth. I had never, ever, ever seen her without her teeth. But that moment just kept playing back, and it was dead silent. There wasn't a word, there wasn't anything. It was just dead silent. And those images, just that same clip, just kept playing, playing, and playing, and playing. Again, I couldn't wake up from it. It wasn't like a bad dream that you can wake up from. I couldn't do anything. I was paralyzed in that moment. And so that again kind of went away. And the next moment I was standing in her living room in the dark, and I could see the flash of the red lights and the blue lights because they were just reflecting all over the walls. And her furniture was in the exact same place, and the white carpet and the smells of my mama's house were there, but it was eerily silent. And I could just see these flashes. And it went on, and it would go away, and it would come back, and it would go away, and that horror would come back. And then I remembered the paramedics going down the stairs, and I followed them out there. That part kind of happened in this flash, and I watched them put her in the ambulance, and that was kind of the end. So I'm thinking, okay, I've gotten through this. Then all of a sudden that next scene pops up, and it is so loud. There's just running water, and it is super, super, super loud. And there's a smell that just, it was so distinctive, and it was where by this point you probably realize my grandmother had had a stroke, and I was the one who found her. It was where we had taken the sheets off of her bed and put them in the tub, because my thing was I didn't want my mom to find them. And so I put them in the tub, and you could just smell the sheets that were soiled, and I'm holding her dentures, and the smell of the vomit from where she had aspirated was on them. And then the minty smell of the toothpaste. I became so focused on brushing her teeth after that happened, because I knew that I had to get them to the hospital because she wouldn't want anybody to see her without them. But I could hear the brushing. And that scene just popped back over and over and over again in my mind. And I couldn't let it go. It never went away. It just popped back. Again, I couldn't wake up. I was paralyzed in that moment. Go back to what I think is asleep. It's gone. I can kind of hear the fan again. The very next thing I see is a guy laying in the road, and his hand's laying out like this in the road. And his wedding ring is there, and the rain is hitting it, and I can hear the drip, drip, drip from that rain, and watching it roll off. And then I realized I was standing in the scene of my very first motorcycle fatality that I ever worked. And I remember, I don't remember anything else about that whole day. I've never been able to remember anything else about that whole scene other than that ring in the rain, and the rain hitting it and making that drip sound. Even on the scene with all this noise, and EMS is there, and fire is there, and the police are there, and the girl that was involved in the wreck that was screaming, and it was all there. And I knew it was going on around me, even then on the scene that day. But the only sign I've ever been able to remember is that drip. That drip. because I knew at that moment somebody else's life was forever changed. And so all throughout the night, I had images come back from the baby that we went to that was dipped in boiling water and the skin was peeling off. I could smell, they put lavender cream on him after this horrific burn. And that was just burning this rawness, but I could smell the lavender. I could feel the skin. I could hear this baby screaming. And these flashes, and nothing would make them go away. We had a car explode in front of us. We're an EMS unit. There are no fire there. There's no nothing. There's no way for us to get to them. And we watched the people burn in the car. And I can remember that. And I can smell that. And I can hear the sound. And I can watch these people die in front of me. And I can't do anything. And I felt that helpless laying there in bed that night. So the next morning, I got up and I'm sitting there. I was so tired, y'all. I was exhausted. And I was so tired. And I'm sitting there, and Carl gets up and he comes in, with his normal good morning. He said, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Nothing." Typical. I think that's the typical PTSD answer. "Nothing. I'm good. I'm fine." Yeah, I'm fine. I was not fine. I was nowhere close to being fine in that moment. Nowhere. And finally, I opened up and I told him what had happened. And I remember him putting his arms around me and him telling me it was okay. And I said, "I didn't even hear the fan." I said, "Do you experience that?" And he said, "Every night." I said, "How do you do that?" Because he'll forever tell me, "I'm not sleeping. I was up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down." And every time I roll over, Happy Boy's sitting there snoring, right? But he's not. He's having these flashes. I said, "How do you deal with it?" He says, "On a good night, I can focus on the fan noise and the rest of it kind of dims out. But when I can't stay focused on that fan noise, it all plays back." His buddy dying in his arms, watching the lives. I mean, all of it. Our veterans experience that. And I never want to experience that again. That was the worst night in my life. Everything that was traumatic to me came crashing back that night. And I never want to experience that again. So I learned something from that. I learned what it was like, even if it was for a few moments, to walk in their shoes. And I assure you, I never want to do that again. So when we look at these symptoms and we look at what our veterans go through and what PTSD does, and flashbacks are a sign, and you hear so many people who don't live this life say, well, they need to get over it. They need to put it in the past. They need to do this. Let me tell you something. My grandmother died 31 years ago. And when I saw it in my head that night, it was as vivid as if I was in my 20s standing there watching her. You can't turn it off. You can't put it past you. You have no idea when that's going to invade your space. So to be able to sit here when you've never experienced it and say, they need to turn it off, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You just don't flip the switch, because you never know when it's going to show up. We sit here and we talk about our veterans, right? And we're having this great day, and all of a sudden the flipping switch is turned and they go from Jekyll to Hyde, and it's like, what the heck? Right? And you're like, what just happened in this moment? We haven't done anything. I haven't even moved. I have concentrated on sitting really still and not saying a word, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa! Right? And we go through that and we see that happen. Now, I didn't have that kind of rage going on, and that is a harder thing for us to deal with. And they can learn to manage that. We can learn how to help them manage that. We can help them navigate through that, right? Together is a big clue here, together. We can do that. But what we can't do, and what they cannot control, is that flashback that comes in their mind. Yeah, I could taste things. I could smell things. I could feel things. I was there like I was in the present moment. And if that's the video that they have going over and over and over again in their brain, and remember, it was those events that caused the PTSD to begin with. You can't shut that off. It doesn't go away. It was horrible. It was horrible. And I think to other experiences that I've had in my life and in my career, my ex-husband's grandmother had horrible dementia and Alzheimer's. Horrible. And we had her in a nursing home, and I was her caregiver, and I went there like every day and sat down and talked to her, and she was off her rocker 99% of the time. 99.999% of the time she was off her rocker. One day I walked in, and I'm like, "Hey Grandma, how are you?" And she looked at me with this very clarity and said, "Stacy, my mind is broken." I said, "Oh, okay." And for about 5 minutes, she was very aware of what was going on in her mind, and that her mind was broken. And that's something that truly demented Alzheimer's patients never get the opportunity to say, and every neurologist in the world would love to hear what she said. And of course, I'm sharing it with my doctor friends, and they're like, "Can you write all those down?" Uh-huh. So Grandma knew there was something not right, and she knew she was broken. And I think that's how our veterans feel. They know that is broken, that that's not normal. They can't stop it, no more than Grandma could stop her Alzheimer's from coming back. No more than I could stop that night. I'm telling you, I never rolled over. I never moved. I could not. I was paralyzed in those moments of flashing. And it was horrible. So we have to learn to walk in each other's shoes. We have to understand PTSD to be able to do what we have to do to navigate through this. Because let me just put this out here. You can't take somebody that is paralyzed from the waist down and look at them and say, "Get up and run a mile." They physically cannot get up and run a mile. They are paralyzed from the waist down. All right? I mean, I kind of got that there. But we can take that same person who wants to go on a run, a 5K, or whatever, put them in their wheelchair and run or walk it with them, and they've accomplished that 5K, and they've done it. They've done it with our help navigating through that. Yeah, you have to love with compassion every day, even when you don't want to, Stephanie. And that is a really tough thing to do. But if you don't learn what they go through, you can't have compassion, because it becomes bitterness. And they have to learn what we go through or we lose the love and that bitterness comes back. The journey we walk is not easy. And I am by no means saying we have to be the total ones to make the change. But we together have to adapt to the life. We have to adapt to that life that we now live. We have to adapt to that. The guy that's the paraplegic can't get up and walk. Morning, Roxy. He can't get up and walk. He can't. But we can take him on a journey. He doesn't have to be confined to the house. He doesn't have to never go anywhere. We can teach him to use his arms to push the wheelchair and to move from place to place. I've met a ton of paraplegics who do more in a day than most people would dream of doing. But they've adapted to that life. And we adapt with our veteran to that life, understanding their limitations. They can do anything. We can do anything. But we have to understand the limitations they have. Those terrors do not go away. You cannot flip a switch and make them go away. And then, when you look at the medications that we use to treat PTSD, so that in the daytime when they're awake with us, or whatever time they're awake with us, that they can function and not be explosive. When you read the side effects, increased nightmares and terrors in almost every one of them. So if they're experiencing what I experienced, if they're experiencing even the minute bit of that, and it's going to increase it, I don't ever want to have to deal with that again, let alone have it increased. So we have to learn to walk a little bit in their shoes. That is what gives us knowledge to be able to adapt our life, to have a functioning relationship that moves forward. Everybody knows we are all in more than one support group. We're all in more than one. I mean, we read the stories, and it's amazing when I get on there and I read those people who are actively participating in this Walking in My Shoes series and actively participating. Your answers are so different than people who don't understand what it's like to walk in that veteran's shoes. They are so different. Stephanie's on a post. I know Roxy put it in a post that she did. That she had posted, that she learned how to calm her veteran by whispering to him. And we all have to know our veteran. Right? We all have to know what works for our veteran. And it's separate. And every veteran is different. Every situation of PTSD is different. Our relationships are different. Why? People say, why? Well, PTSD is PTSD. It's not. They come with prior baggage, prior life events that take them to that place. They all come with their own individual personalities that take them to this place. They all react differently to what they saw and heard and felt. Right? And we also are, while we may share this in common, we all are different in some ways. So when you mix all these differences together, there is no one answer. Stephanie's learned how to soothe hers. Roxy has learned how to soothe hers. There are days I'd like to get. I've learned how to soothe mine. Does it work all the time? No. Do I fail at it every day? Absolutely. But every day we make a concerted effort a concerted effort to grow our relationship. And it comes from me learning what he goes through. I don't need to know the details. I need to understand what he goes through. He doesn't need to know my details. He needs to understand what I go through. And when you have understanding, you have growth. When you have understanding, you have growth. The one thing that Carl hates when we do this is when I say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. And he's like, well, there is nothing to be sorry about. You can't help what I feel. But I'm sorry I upset you. You didn't upset me. The way I took it upset me. So his thing is that apologizing for your beliefs and your behavior is not the answer. He can't help what I feel. I can't help what he feels. I can love him in that moment. He can love me in that moment. And I think that was such an eye-opening thing. But learning what they go through matters, and it makes a huge difference in going forward. So I wanted to share. It is much more in depth in the blog. If you've not read the blog, it's on the website. I wanted to share what that was like. I wanted to share my glimpse of walking in their shoes. I really wanted to share that because I think it is so important that we understand what they go through, just like it's important they understand what we go through. So, just needed to put that out there and share that. There's a couple other things I really want to share and talk to y'all about. First of all, you are the most amazing community of people I have ever met. Amazing. I have such a friendship and developed such a friendship with people I've never seen, but I just have this friendship with them, and I don't know if I can do life and do this journey without you guys, because you're amazing, and I learn from you and get strength from you every single day, and that's just completely amazing to me. So I'm going to share this. Y'all know I suffer from my own weird depression moods. But I think we all do. You're welcome, Nikki. I think we all suffer from depression, and anybody who says that, oh, well, I'm never depressed, and I live my life, and I'm never depressed, and I don't do that, you lie a lot, okay? Because we all go through that form of depression of some form or another. So there was a point over the last 3 or 4 weeks that I really questioned, are we doing anything with Loving My Veteran? Is it making a difference? And is it a journey that we want to pour so much into? And so I sat there with Carl and with Jeremy, and I said, look, y'all, I think maybe we need to end this. We had some rough patches, and I'm like, maybe we just need to end this because I'm not sure what we're doing is really making a difference. And I finally just said, I can't do this by myself anymore. I need help. I just prayed about this. And the overwhelming people that have stepped up, Nakia and her points to ponder. I am so in love with her and her Richard that I cannot even begin to tell you how much I love her and her Richard. And Roxy and all these people who have poured so much into this. I woke up this morning with this new vigor, and I'm like, we got this. So excited about what January has to offer, because I just think we are going to be it in January when we learn about our rights and that we all have these rights, and they're not just our rights. Every human being has a set of rights that they get to live by, and that includes our veterans. So I think that when we share that, we're going to have a vet perspective come in once a week. I'm super excited about being able to get it from a veteran's point of view. If y'all have questions that you want a veteran to answer, please email them to us or message them to the page so that when we do I'm actually going to record one of them tomorrow So when we do our Vet Connects, we can get the insight from the veteran themselves, because I can't answer for a veteran. They can. I'm not that person. If your spouse would be interested in talking, we would love to interview them as well, or y'all, and how you get through some of your days and what's going on. Again, January, the whole thing. We have our book club coming up. There is a poll on the group page so we can set a date and time with which to get together. Newsletter will be coming out. There are tons more blogs coming up. And if y'all would just do me one more thing, girl, Stephanie, just send me a message and we'll get whatever we need, all the help we can get, sister. We never turn help down, ever, because we are growing. And I put that out there. So we are growing and we are doing things in a positive manner because of all y'all, not because of me. I'm just a voice here. Really thinking about, just want your opinion and feedback on this too. I think it's time we get us some of these little, we all drink our coffee in. It says, if you think your day is bad, you ought to try walking in my shoes. I just think we ought to be getting those out there, because I think that's just where we are in our lives. Anyway, that is kind of where I am. I'm still got some one-on-one times. If you need to book those up today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, just let me know. Stephanie, please message me when this is over, and we'll get together. Y'all have a blessed day. We have so much going on, stories to share, people to embrace, lift each other up. Remember that you are worth it, you do matter, and tomorrow we'll be talking about caregiver versus partner, and let's get that nonsense out of the way, because I think that's what we need to do. We need to learn where we are. Y'all have a blessed day. Bye.